the most obvious question, like, how do you go from doing street magic and puzzles to dedicating an entire channel to UFOs, not just making a video on your main channel, right? Like starting a second channel and putting all this effort into it.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate puzzle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what a
For
lot of people have
sure.
been saying. It's like, oh, now he's trying to solve the real puzzle, of
Yeah.
humanity, women. No,
Yeah. Good
yeah,
luck with that one.
yeah, exactly. Um, I think okay. So initially, I mean, I've always been a fan of the subject. I've literally been a fan of the subject for decades. Been following, people from, I mean, back in the Phil Schneider days to Bill Cooper. I mean, looked at Art Bell, Bob Lazar. I've been following all this stuff for a very long time, and have been doing so since being a kid. I think I watched Fire in the Sky when I was like 9, and after that, Unsolved Mysteries and all this. So I've been kind of immersed in this, and then I think magic is sort of related to this topic in that there is this how can you say you play with the paranormal, you play with the illusion of creating psychic event and these type of things. So there is like some type of overlap that I've always been interested in.
Sure.
But it wasn't until a friend of mine, Nelson Dellis, he's the six-time U.S. memory champion. I hit him up once and I was like, hey, can you teach me, these memory techniques? I'd love to learn them. I had read Josh Foer's book, Moonwalking with Einstein, which is amazing. And I wanted to get into like some memory stuff to help me out with magic tricks. So if I can memorize a deck of cards, I thought that would be, a really interesting sort of premise for a magic trick. And so he came over, he taught me how to do a mind palace. We ran through it. I trained and eventually was able to memorize a shuffle deck of cards in like 5 minutes.
Wow.
Which was, it was a great skill to acquire. And, during one of our talks, we'd get pretty deep. And one time he said, he's like, recently on one of these memory groups that I'm a part of, somebody had asked if any of these memory people wanted to make some extra money. And he was like, all right, I'll bite. What's the thing? And the person goes up to him and says, have you ever heard of remote viewing? And Nelson studied physics at university. He's a very intelligent, very, I would say, left-brained person by nature, and goes, I mean, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So he's like, what is it? And they're like, well, to sort of perceive something non-locally. And he's like, okay, this is woo-woo, super weird, but they're offering me money, right? Which I'm not going to say no to. So he's like, all right, let's see. They trained him. So this was a team that was hired by a hedge fund to train people proficient in memory how to remote view so they can remote view the stock market for
Wow.
them, right?
Wow.
So he does this for an hour a day for a month, gets paid to learn how to remote view, and then proceeds to remote view, doing associative remote viewing for this team. He'd signed an NDA and the whole thing. And he tells me this, and I go, now my psychic brain is perking up, and I'm like, well, this sounds insane and fascinating. I'm like, did you have like good results? He starts showing me the most amazing results, like 1-for-1s, like you could lay them over. And I'm like, what? I'm like, can you teach me? And he's like, yeah. So I documented myself learning this, and I did this for the course of a year, just to kind of like see if it was true. I'd heard and
Wow.
read things, but I wanted to find out for myself, and documented the whole thing. And that was supposed to go on the main channel. And I was like, this is so different from my regular content. It'll probably tank. And the audience is probably gonna be like, what kind of stuff have you been smoking? Like,
Yeah.
and so I was like, you know what? Let's just start a whole other venture. And that was the first series I'd put up on Area 52, followed up by like out of body experiences where I, went to the Monroe Institute and meditated for months, hours a day, and eventually had out of body experiences. And so this whole channel for me has become two things. One, it's become a creative outlet where I get to really play. I get to have fun with the sets that I build and all the props that I have, and like this creative sort of outlet. And secondly, it's I want to find answers myself. I'm
Sure.
sick of people telling me what to believe and telling me what's true. And I'm just going to be like, well, feet on the ground. Let me go see for myself what this is about, and I'll put the work in. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've been trying to do. Long-winded answer,
Wow.
but there you go. Yeah.
No, you touched on a lot of things that I definitely want to get into. I've seen that 3-part series. I watched that last night. I did a deep dive.
All right, strap yourselves in. This is a crash course on remote viewing. Obviously, we're not going through all the little finer details, but this essentially is how it's done.
All right, for the remote view.
I'm so ready.
First stage, S1, as we'll call it, is where you develop this ideogram. Okay, ideogram is like a very simple drawing. It's a sketch.
An ideogram is a little squiggle on the line, on the paper, that represents the primary gestalt of the site.
You put your pen on the page and you scribble whatever comes to mind. The more you think about this, the worse this is going. Next, what you do is you describe. So just little descriptors about the process of you drawing that scribble. There's two things that are going to come out of this final part of stage 1, which is the feeling and something called the gestalt. Well, a gestalt really is kind of like a general category of things. It could be nature, life form, structure, landmass. Then with that, you go into stage 2 where you start to perceive things, colors, energies, dimensions, textures, sounds, temperatures, tastes, all the things that you try to describe something in real life. When that stream kind of stops is when you can stop. If anything comes to mind, like if you see, oh, it's red, white, blue, and you're like, American flag. Again, you want to avoid those. So on the side, you can write AOL, which we said was analytical overlay, and you address it. You say flag. Now you must be thinking, okay, what the fuck are you describing if there's nothing to be described? Well, that's the thing. You don't even think about it. The more you think about it, the worse you're gonna do, even if it doesn't make sense. That's, I think, honestly what most of the training is how do you quiet the analytical mind? Stage 3 then is the sketch. Whatever comes to paper, it's gonna be very abstract. So once you have the sketch, that's stage 3, then it's stage 4, which is basically kind of elaborating on the sensory data that's coming through. And it's really here where you can, I'm not gonna say you say what it is, but you go down more of a targeted telescope and you can extract more data and get to more information that potentially later could be analyzed and given as a result. And then that's it. Usually at the end, I might say end, put my pen down, close stream.
After this training, I spent the next year practicing and honing this new skill.
Another day, another remote viewing session. All right, another day, another session, another remote viewing session. Yeah, today's session was a bit of a bust. I'd give this a 1 on 10. This is how it goes, and we'll continue tomorrow with a fresh session.
I gotta have so many compliments I could give you that you would probably make you uncomfortable, man.
No,
You do
please.
such a great job with production. Yeah, you're like, no, continue. I'll make time. Yeah, I mean, the production clearly is on another level. Your ability to tell a story and really break things down is quite remarkable, and making it digestible and for people to understand, and also making yourself a part of it, but not in a way that may take away from the objectivity of it, if that makes sense. I thought just your work is excellent, man, and
Thank
so
you.
many people I know in the vetted community follow it quite closely. In fact, I heard today in my Discord open mic that I do every day after my videos and just hang out with vetters and talk, and they were all just telling me, yeah, dude, I love your channel, and Area 52 are my favorite 2 channels.
Oh, that's
Y'all
cool.
too.